Welcome to episode 12 of the LAN Partners Podcast. My name is Connor, and I got Dave.
Yellow.
And that's it for this week. Last week, Matt said that NBA Jam wasn't in his top 3 non-simulations. Oh, wait, he is here. Matt?
Surprise, I'm here.
There he is. All right, so
Pull
this...
some strings.
So this
How'd
week...
you get in the call?
I don't know. He's a hacker. So this week we have video game Would You Rather. We played that a couple episodes ago, so we're going to play that again. That was a good time. Matt and I are going to talk about Yakuza 0. Our discussion today is how do we feel about VR going forward and today. A couple news stories, and our list for today is last week we did not real sports games, so this week we are going to talk about real sports games. So last week I left the question on Facebook, tell us your favorite not real, non-simulation sports games, and Tony responded with Mario Baseball, as I predicted. I said there was someone else out there who likes Mario Baseball, so Tony is that guy. We are just 3 guys who have full-time jobs, families, and other hobbies who love the game. What makes this podcast different is that we will, of course, talk about new games, but we will also talk about games that came out 2 or 3 years ago as if they were new. We just want to share our experiences playing these games in case you're in the same spot as us where your gaming time is limited. Please download the podcast by Apple App, Stitcher, Google Play for you Android users, or go on iTunes and hit subscribe. That way you get our weekly episodes uploaded to you every Thursday. If you have questions, discussion topics, or list ideas, please message us on Facebook, send an email, thelandpartners@gmail.com, or just leave a comment. Also, check out our LAN Partner Twitch page if you want to get some gameplay videos of the games we talk about throughout this podcast. They are all up on our Twitch page. And we also send out notifications on Facebook and Twitter about when we record something and post it up there. So please get on that social media. Well, let's kick it off with some video game Would You Rather. I went first when we played initially, so how about, Matt, you start us off with your video game Would You Rather.
All right. So in the spirit of our simulation sports list that we mentioned, mine is related to sports games. So my Would You Rather is, would you rather have the only game or to have only one sports game that you can play? So once you have the sports game, it will not be updated, no upgrades, no rosters, anything like that. So would you have only that one sports game to play for the rest of your life, or would you rather never be able to play a sports game again?
So I'm either playing that one game or no game at all?
Or no sports game.
I'm going to take that one game. I want something.
Okay.
So let me understand before I answer here. So if I take the sports game, I can't play The Witcher anymore.
No, you can still play other games. You just can't play the other. Would you rather you wouldn't be able to play any other sports game ever. So you'd be stuck with your one sports game as a sports game in that genre. You can only ever play that one sports game. So if you had NBA 2K, that's the only sports game you could ever play for the rest of your life, but you could still play other video games.
Maybe I'll go with Madden. If it was Madden, I would do it.
Okay. For Madden. All right. Dave, how about you hit us off with your video game Would You Rather?
Sure, I got 2 of them. I was going back and forth trying to figure out which one we should do, but I kind of like my second one, so I'm going to go with that. Would you rather have your favorite game series, and by the way, this is after playing Metal Gear and seeing Hideo Kojima put himself in his own game. I was like, I got to make a Would You Rather that kind of harkens to this. So I said, would you rather have your favorite game series use your likeness and voice in their next game, or be a development tester for the next game in your favorite series? So to recap, would you rather be in the game but not get to play till it comes out? Or would you rather be one of like the alpha and beta testers and give your feedback and help like form the game itself in your favorite series?
Matt, what do you think?
I think I would rather be in the game, because considering that it would be my favorite series, to be able to kind of stamp my mark on the game and be in it for history books, I think I would be able to wait out not being able to play in like alpha or beta and just to be in the game fully.
Yeah, I would definitely go with being in the game, just because I think who can say that they were in a video game?
Right. EA Sports is in the game.
Yeah, that's what I was actually going to say, EA Sports. All right, my video game Would You Rather. You could only play one multiplayer shooter for the rest of your life, including its future releases. So you're just committing to this one series as a multiplayer shooter for the rest of your life. Would you rather it be the Star Wars Battlefront series or the Battlefield 1 series? So you could only have Battlefield 1, Battlefield 1 2, Battlefield 1 3, whatever they come out with as their sequel. So you're committing to either. So you can look at this two different ways. You could look at this as being like, wow, those are two very good gaming series right there. I don't know which one I'd pick. Or you could look at this as, wow, those are both very garbage games. I don't know which one I'd rather play. So what do you guys think? Are you committing to the Star Wars Battlefront or the World War I Battlefield games?
I'm gonna go with Battlefield World War One.
Yeah,
Wow.
I agree with Dave.
Wow.
Not much thought there.
I would've went
Battlefront
Star
doesn't
Wars.
impress me really. No.
Battlefront just did nothing for me.
I would
don't
rather.
know.
Okay, so would you rather play a Star Wars game and be a friggin' Jedi with a lightsaber, or play a stupid Star Wars game where you're shooting a Star Wars laser gun as a jobber on the field with 100 other jobbers? What would you rather do, Connor?
I don't know. You seem pretty impressed by their EA EA E3 display.
The visuals and the sound fantastic, I will say. If only it were a real Star Wars game where you could play as a Jedi, that'd be pretty cool, huh?
All right, I'd go. I'd definitely go Star Wars. All right, so that was Video Game Would You Rather. Let's go ahead and get into some reviews of Yakuza 0. Matt and I both played this game. I finished it a little bit quicker than or not a little bit quicker, but a little bit sooner than him, so I've been kind of holding off on talking about this game till Matt finished it. So first of all, it's developed by Sega. It's set in Tokyo and Osaka, Japan, just because there's two characters. It was released earlier this year. It's set in the 80s. What this game is, it's a prequel to the already established Yakuza series, which is 1 through 5 they have, and then they just released 6 in Japan, but that's going to be coming over next year to North America, so we're going to definitely be looking out for that. So what it is just a storyline is between two characters, Kairu, how do you say his name, Matt?
Kiryu.
I keep on saying Kyrie because of Kingdom Hearts. Yeah. So I'm going to be saying Kiri.
Kyrie because of the Cavs, is that what you said? Or wait, no, maybe not the Cavs anymore. It's another podcast, though.
So Kiru and Majima, there's just two different storylines going on between them, completely separate. Like, they don't have any sort of crossing patterns up until the end, where you could kind of tell that's going to happen in the end. So I'm not, obviously that's not a spoiler or anything, but they are separate storylines, all based around this empty lot that all these different groups, kind of gangs in Japan, are battling for this empty lot that has a lot of importance. And throughout the story, throughout the game, you try to figure out between each character, why is this empty lot so important? So you just go through Japan, finding those things out between these two characters. Let's go ahead and just dive into our likes. One thing I liked about this, and Matt, I know you agree with me, is the story in this game is obviously one of the best stories that I've seen in a game. What do you think about it?
I thought it was phenomenal. It's something that it's like on the surface, like how you described it, it seems kind of simple with, there's just different Yakuza clans kind of gunning at each other to get this empty lot in like the retail market. But there's so much more to it than that. I mean, that's the overall arcing story of everything, but in between that there's so many little kind of small subgroup of things going on between different characters and clans, and they have kind of backstories for everybody that they set up for, giving you past things about their lives and how they got to where they are today and things like that. So they do a great job of telling the story in this game.
Yeah, and before we go too deep into it, I want to kind of go back to the setup of this game. What it is, it's a third person. They call it open world. I use the word open world very loosely when describing this game because there are a lot of limitations of what you can do. And you can, for example, they'll put you in a mission, then you have to linear go through this mission. You can't just say, like, I don't want to do that just yet. I'm going to go this way. They block you off with those invisible walls all over the place. Drives me crazy, but yeah.
Or a random street light pole or a bike.
Or a mailbox, and you can't get between a mailbox and a person, and you get stuck, and it's like, come on. But yeah, there's a lot of that where if you're going into it expecting a GTA experience, it's not that. You can't even drive cars or anything like that. You can
So you can enter buildings, is what you're saying.
You can enter a few buildings.
You can enter some buildings.
Right.
It's not completely empty space, but there is some empty space there. So so let's go back into our likes. Matt, what else do you like besides the story? Because obviously we could talk all day about this story.
Yeah, story's obviously amazing. The other thing that was really good was just the animations of the characters. Everything seemed very believable with their movements
Voice acting.
Yeah, voice acting, like the expressions on their faces when they were talking. You could really feel that person talking to you. It didn't just seem like kind of some guy on a stick, like moving his head back and forth. It had a lot of emotion in it. The fighting, obviously, that's your main style of gameplay, is your fighting hand-to-hand combat. You can pick up objects off the ground and use those in kind of street brawling type ways. But the fighting is really cool. There's all these different styles you can use for each character. So there's 2 different characters you play as, like Connor was saying. So each character has their own set of fighting styles that you can switch to on the fly, and they each have their own skill trees that you can upgrade and make better. So kind of a lot of depth with that. Me and Connor, we both agree we kind of stuck with the same like 2 or 3 fighting styles for each guy, like respectively. So
what basically happens with the fighting styles is you have the 2 characters, and in which with each character you develop 3 fighting styles, and we, like Matt was saying, we kind of stuck to one for each character.
Right.
Some of them in certain situations, one would be better than the other. But so what else about the fighting, Matt?
I think just it felt really good. It has kind of a little bit of an arcadey feel, just in terms of, like when you punch someone, there's like a flash, when you hit somebody, and it's got all the sounds and the grunts from all the guys that you'd expect kind of from like maybe a 2D side scrolling like beat 'em up type game. But it's really fun. I mean, you feel like you're really beating the crap out of these people. I mean, you're slamming them with like chairs and stuff, and your punches and you have some really cool, like once this gauge fills up, you can use these more powerful attacks, and those go into kind of these little mini like cutscenes of you doing this really powerful attack on them, and those looked really cool.
And the moves that are so impactful that you're like, I for sure killed that guy, and then throughout the game he's like, I've never killed anybody. It's like, what are you talking about? We've killed 100 people up to this point. Like, tell me that there's no way this guy survived a baseball bat to the head while laying on the ground. There's no way. So don't tell me.
He's in a coma, right?
So
that was the thing we griped about a little bit.
Along with the fighting, the upgrading abilities and stuff, like Matt was saying, is awesome. The cutscenes, like you said, were insanely crisp. So that pretty much rounds off all the things I liked. Was there anything else that stuck out to you? Because I thought, aside from the story and the fighting, there was not a whole lot of.
The only other thing for me was just the setting of the game. I really enjoyed. I know we've kind of said it's not necessarily an open world. You do have this kind of city that you're able to walk around, and there's different side quests and stuff, which I'll get into in a second. But I just thought it was kind of an exciting game world because it's Tokyo, so there's just lights everywhere, and it just felt more inviting to me. It felt like I never got tired of walking around in the city, so that was a good thing. But that's probably my only other like with the game.
Yeah, and I kind of talking about that a little bit. There was a ton of side content where, for example, let's just kind of compare notes here, Matt. I completed the game in 38 hours. How long did it take you to complete it?
It took me a little over 20 hours.
Yeah. I didn't even do that much. I didn't even commit to the side stuff as much as I would want to. I did a few side missions. I checked out the bowling alley, probably a lot of time at the bowling alley. I checked out the batting cages. I checked out you can run a cabaret club. I tried that out. Yeah. You can commit to the real estate. I tried that out for a little bit. So if you're somebody who is looking for a game that you could spend 70 hours doing different things on, not just doing the story, you could do, if you want a business simulator, do the real estate and the cabaret club management. That is it's like Sim City on Yakuza, man. Like, it's really in depth. It is not anything that they just threw together. It's really, you have to make some decisions and be a manager of a building, and it's tough. So let's jump into the dislikes. The open world setting was a little weak, like we were saying earlier when we first introduced this game, that it's just invisible walls left and right. Matt, tell me how you felt about the side missions.
So the side missions, a lot of times me and Connor play games together, like not together, but we'll be on like PlayStation chat, and we'll be talking while we're playing our different games. And I was playing Yakuza. I was going through pretty much all the main missions, decided to check out a side mission. It took me probably, I don't know, maybe a half hour to beat the side mission. But the problem is you spend all this time on a side mission and it has nothing to do with the main story. It has nothing to do with anything towards your main mission or objective. And then you finish the side quest and all you get is like some money or an item that you can use to maybe boost up your health or something if you're in trouble. So I felt like the side quests were completely useless. It's just there to fill up time. If you're really invested in the world, I guess it'd be something you could get into. But for me, I did that one, and I said, see you later. I'm not coming back to those. I'm going straight through.
What happens when you're walking by a side mission, Matt? And
okay, that's the other annoying thing. They force you into talking to the person. So if you're walking by and there's an NPC, non-playable character that comes up to you, they force you into the conversation. So a lot of games usually they'll put like an exclamation point over their head or a question mark or something, telling the player, okay, you can talk to them. Not in this game. They force you into talking to this person, and then there's about 10 minutes of dialogue that you have to scroll through while talking to them.
That's not even exaggeration. It was just
not exaggeration.
Pointless dialogue, just banter back and forth. And then the most annoying part about it is when the ... dialogue, because in Yakuza, everything's in Japanese. We didn't say that. Everything is purely 100% Japanese, so you have to read everything. So like when they have 3 different styles of cutscenes, and the main style is just them dialogue. Their lips aren't moving; it's just dialogue. So you'll see you have to actually scroll through ... and then It was a lot of wasted time. The side missions were pretty much my only dislikes of the game because there was a very big time commitment to those. I completed a lot of them. I'd probably say if I were to guess, I probably completed over 20 side missions, which is a lot. That's probably 5 to 6 extra hours of side missions. And I did play them because they had some fun little twists. Like, for example, one of them, you were dressed up as a director of a movie and you had to pretend to be a movie director. The other one was you had to pretend like you were this girl's husband or boyfriend and to impress the dad. Like, it's just fun little stuff. You have to make some decisions. Nothing ever impacts the overall story though, which kind of got annoying. At one point I'm like, this is not driving the narrative. I'm done. I want to finish this game just because the narrative is so good. So was there anything else that you thought was a dislike on this game?
Two things, but I'll do real quick. So the one was, you heard me a lot complaining about this towards the end of the game. There's just random street fights that you get into if you run into groups of people. They have like groups of people hanging out, and if you walk past them, they'll for whatever reason get angry with you, and then they'll start chasing you, and it's very annoying because when you're trying to just get to where you want to go, if they get within a certain parameter of you, they like suck you into this fight that you have to do. And the fights are never hard or anything, but it's just annoying, and I got really tired of that pretty quick. Then the only other thing I had a dislike with, which this does not happen very often, it does happen a couple times throughout the game. This is not a spoiler. So there are certain parts of the game where you're on a quest, and the game basically tells you go find this, and they do not put
phone.
Yeah, but this is more than that. They tell you to go find something, or they give you a clue, but they do not give you any marker on where to go. So you have to literally just walk around the town, go in and out of every single store, and try to find this thing that they're hoping you'll just randomly come across. So that was a little annoying. I mean, we were both able to get through it. It was fine, but if for people who kind of need more direction, those things will be very frustrating for you.
Yeah, that one mission where you have to find like the alcoholic drinks for the bums or whatever, that you had to go through every single convenience store, and then always the last one is the one that has what I'm looking for.
All right. Yeah.
So let's go ahead and just give our overalls with this game. The story was obviously amazing. I loved it. Yeah. Every second of it was just total twists left and right, and huge developments throughout the story. Really kept it going. The open world though was not anything to write home about. It wasn't anything special, but it was solid. I mean, it kept me entertained for 38 hours. So I'd give this game an 8.5. Thought it was really great. What kept it being a 9 was the open world aspect. I'd kind of want a little bit more, like I said, with the invisible walls and everything, the side quests. But so 8.5. What about you, Matt?
I went with an 8. It's just a solid 8. I agreed. I thought it was a great game. Kind of the same thing with you. I had a few gripes that held me back from it being kind of a really up there top top-notch game, but it's got me invested. I'm ready to play the rest of the games in the series. I hope they continue to remaster the other ones.
Yeah, and speaking of, I was going to mention this, that Yakuza 1, the remaster, is called Kiwani, is coming out August 29th. So this is a Yakuza 1 remaster. The plus side of this is $30. So after playing the Zero, I've never played any other ones besides Yakuza 4 or a little bit of it. But now that this is coming out, like, I'm looking to fully get into the series. There's a big Sega announcement coming in a little bit about whether or not they're going to start re-releasing all these old games, and that would be awesome. Right now, Yakuza 0 is $55 at GameStop. Matt, do you think that's a little overpriced?
Probably. I mean, there is a ton of content in the game, but I would say if you're on the fence, definitely wait for the price to go down.
Yeah. It's a great game. You know, there's no doubt about that. The story is great. I can't wait to play the rest of them, but so I would recommend it, though. It's a really, really great game. So let's get into our discussion about VR. Now, a little disclaimer. None of us, I don't think, have ever played VR. So we're not giving our opinions on how we think it performs or anything like that. We're just going to be talking about how we feel about it moving forward and the current product that it is now, of why we haven't played it. So, Dave, tell us how you feel about VR.
So we've talked about VR a couple times, and do I take VR seriously? In a word, no, not even a little bit. VR is a joke for me. It's a gimmick. It's the terrible initial motion controls of the new generation of gaming. There's a lot of things I don't like about it. For one, it shuts you completely off from the outside world, which for me is a huge problem, especially with a family. I can't really have all of my senses delegated to just this one thing. If there's some sort of commotion, I want to be able to see it. I want to be able to hear it, things like that. The controls on these things are often with little weird, like, brass knuckle looking things that I have no desire to use whatsoever. The headsets look really strange, and for some reason a headset costs more than an Xbox One S or a PlayStation 4 right now. And developing a game for such an expensive piece of hardware from a developer's standpoint has to be the scariest thing ever. I mean, when I do things for my job, I look at it as, is it worth my time, and is it worth my money if I have to spend any in order to get my objective? If I'm not making that time or money back in some way, shape, or form, I'm not doing it. And to risk like a huge AAA title that is VR dependent when this is not a common household thing yet, and it's so very expensive, so only your not necessarily wealthy, but people who are going to be willing to save up the money for it are going to buy it. I just don't know. I don't see a future for it.
Well, Dave, going right off, I'm glad you brought this up. You said, developers not committing to this thing just because it's scary. And yeah, it is scary because if you think about it, PSVR has only sold just over 1 million units. So if a developer right now is like, I'm going to make a PSVR game, they're topping out at 1 million sale. If every single person were to buy this game, they're getting 1 million. That's it. That's
and
all.
Think about it this way. Nintendo got a bunch of negative feedback for only putting like 2.7 million Switches out in the wild, and that got bought up in like a week. How long has VR been out and it's only selling 1 million units? Are you kidding? Like, this thing's dead before it's even started.
They're
What's
happy.
going on here?
Sony's looking at that as a win. They're like, yes, we sold 1 million units. Like, when they got to that million mark, it was a big celebration. But you talked about the pricing, so I just want to brief that real fast. PSVR right now is going for $400. But you don't get the camera with that, so then you have to buy the camera for an additional $100, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's $100 just for the camera. So you're looking at $500 just for the setup. And that's not even including I think you could get a bundle maybe with some game. I don't know. I've never looked into PSVR, no interest. But I know they bundled the Batman Arkham game before, so I think you get that. But still, $500. Just to set up this PSVR for games that aren't even that long. Developers aren't committing to it. So for me, it's mostly the price tag involved with this. There are other there are other VR things like the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift, but still very expensive. The HTC Vive is $800 and the Oculus Rift is close to $600. Like, these things are very pricey. So Matt, where do you stand on this VR?
I'm not completely opposite from you guys, but I do think VR is. I don't think it's ever going to be a game changer. I don't think it's ever going to be the sole gaming, the way that we game or anything like that. But I think it is something that's going to be here to stay. I think the problem with it right now is that it is kind of a new wave of technology into the masses, and I think a lot of people are still trying to kind of figure it out, and the technology is not quite where it needs to be to make it a full kind of buy-in for a lot of people. So I think just like anything else, with when 1080p TVs came out and now 4K TVs, the prices are really high when those technologies come out, and I think that's kind of what we're seeing right now with the VR. I've never, like we said, we've all never put on a VR headset, but I've watched a lot of videos on VR, and that's, as close as I can get to trying one. But I think it's a cool idea. I think Dave makes a valid point of you are kind of locked in this space. You cannot see anything else around you besides this game. So that's the whole idea of virtual reality, is to put yourself into the game, which I think is a cool concept. I think if they can figure out a way to make it more user friendly, and I know there's a lot of issues right now with people feeling dizzy or nauseous. Motion sickness. So
you can't play that long, then you're gonna get sick and get all messed up.
So I think if they can figure out a way to maybe balance those things out somehow, or make it a smoother experience for people, I think there's huge potential in VR. Not even in gaming as well. I've heard VR being used in the medical field as well, helping people who have lost appendages, and it kind of giving them the visual effect of having that appendage back, which kind of tricks our brain into thinking that we have that movement again. So I think there's a lot of potential in VR. I think just right now it's so new, and they're still tweaking and messing around with it, and it's just not where the technology's not there yet. But I think it's something that could be really great in the future.
You talked about the motion sickness, and I think that alone is one of the biggest hurdles that these developers are going to have to face. Because if you think about it, if they're creating a game, let's say they're creating a 20-hour game, they're going to be super ambitious and create a 20-hour experience, a VR experience, which isn't done yet. But people can't play that long. It's very hard to play VR longer than 30 minutes to an hour. So I don't know if people are going to be committing to this. So
especially if you're going to, with that price tag, it just makes it such a tough sell.
Dave, where do you see VR in the future?
I see it going the same way that the 3DS went, just no longer in production. Nintendo thought 3D on a handheld was going to be a really great thing, and again, it had the same issues. It was making people feel nauseous. It was very strenuous on the eyes to look at the 3D screen, and they named their console the 3DS, and now look what we're seeing right now. 3DSs are going to get canceled and nixed out because everybody plays everything in 2D, and they have the 2DS XL now, and that's their last, hurrah in the handheld space that's not a hybrid console, as far as we can tell. And I think VR is going to kind of go the same way. People are going to be into it for a little bit. It's going to be a niche thing, like Matt said. If you really want to be in the world, you're going to get games like remakes of games you've already played and beat, like Skyrim. I think Bethesda, didn't they announce 3 or 4 games? I think Doom is going to get a VR, and then Fallout maybe. But it's one of those things where if you were already a fan of those games, or you were already excited about those games and you finished them, I'm not too sure what you're going to get from putting on a VR headset, except for motion sickness. I just don't. I want to see something created specifically for VR, but then going all the way back to that first point, who's going to develop that game? Who's going to develop that AAA game that risks the biscuit on VR?
Yeah, it's a big risk.
I just think people are going to write it off. I'm like me. I don't want to get motion sick. I don't want to play
it. I don't want to put one on. Yeah.
I guess we gotta try it out to see. But yeah, there's an alarming amount of reviews claiming that. So
could the PSVR or could VR be the next Xbox Kinect situation where that was all the rage? And when that Kinect came out, this is amazing. This is the future. Remember the whole, I'm going to write this on a piece of paper, then I'm going to give it to the camera, and then the character in the camera is going to show me what I wrote on the paper. That was huge. I still haven't even seen that happen, by the way. I've never seen a game do that. But, that was all the rage, and everyone was talking about how that's the future, and now people are mad that Xbox included their Kinect inside the Xbox One because they didn't want it.
I sold mine pretty quick. Yeah, I did not like the Kinect.
So,
I'd like to see where it goes, but they're going to have to make a lot of big changes, I think.
Well, of us three, you are definitely the most interested in VR because unless something insane happens where someone's selling a VR for $50-$60, then I might buy it.
Yeah.
Other than that.
You know what VR stands for, right?
I feel like this
is risky. Very risky. It is a very risky thing.
It's not virtual reality. So I'm going to see where he's going with this.
This is some sort of joke.
All right. Before we get into our news, I have a bonus game that I didn't tell you guys about. So, you guys are going to be playing a game. What the game is called is which game was released first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you guys 2 games. And then you will give me separate answers. Don't tell me any background so the other person doesn't cheat. So just say, that game was released first, and we'll see who gets them right. I'm going to ask you 3 sets of games. So the first 2 games, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, this is original release date, or Mario 64. Which one was released first? Whenever you have an answer, just say it. Legend 64. Of Zelda Ocarina of Time or Mario 64.
Mario 64. Mario.
All right, you guys both got that one right. So that was an easy one. Let's kick it up a notch.
Wasn't that a launch title? Right?
That's what I was thinking.
I just want to warm you guys up. All right, next one.
Okay. All
right, next one. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas or Halo 2. Which one was released first?
Oh, jeez.
Is this one?
Say Halo 2.
Dave?
I'll say. Was San Andreas PS2?
It was.
Yeah.
It was PS2. I'm gonna say what the heck? We'll go with San Andreas.
Dave is correct. 1 week before Halo 2, and
1 week before
San Andreas, October 26, 2004. Halo 2, November 9th, 2004. All right, last 2. Metal Gear Solid 4 or Left 4 Dead 1.
PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360.
That is correct.
Right?
I'm gonna say Metal Gear.
I'm going to say Left 4 Dead only because I think when Metal Gear came out, they released a whole new version of the PS3 and bundled it.
So you're going. You guys are going opposites. Matt is correct with Metal Gear Solid 4. June 12th, 2008. Left 4 Dead, November 17th, 2008. So a couple months apart. So you guys tied. I wish I had a tiebreaker on my hands, but I don't. I'm not prepared. I didn't expect you guys to tie.
Wow.
So we'll play that again sometime. That was kind of fun.
Right.
So let's get into our news. So I talked about Yakuza. The Sega's coming out with an announcement in a couple weeks here. But one thing I want to talk about with you guys is Sims 4 coming to Xbox One. You guys excited about that?
Xbox One and PS4.
Oh, they did. They officially announced PS4. I heard it was.
It was a little bit later after Xbox. They announced it for PS4.
Right. Dave, how do you feel about Sims 4 coming to Xbox One?
I think for the right price, I would buy it. Like, if there's an ultimate game sale, I haven't played The Sims since the first one, and I had tons of fun with that. I want to say I was in middle school when I played the first one, but The Sims 4, I think I would buy for. Let's see, what would I pay for it? Maybe. I bought a couple games on the game sales for like $10. I think I would buy it for $10 just to kind of see what it's all about again.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird to see a Sims game come to the console. I wonder how it would perform.
Yeah.
Like there's a one game I was looking at today. It's like the Sim City, but it's not. It's
Skylines or whatever.
Yeah, that's it. Skylines.
Okay,
yeah. That game looks interesting to me because it's going to come to console. I might want to check that out. I haven't checked out a Sim City since I was like a kid because I've never had a console or a PC that I could game on really, so I never even tried.
You're right, yeah.
So
I think I had one for Super Nintendo. I think there was
Sim
City with that. Yeah.
There might have been.
I think there was a Sim City on Super Nintendo. I want to say Super Nintendo.
Wow, I didn't even know that. All right, so the last news story I have for you guys, unless you guys have something, was the Mario Kart testing. I was reading an article about how they tested Mario Kart 7 and 8 without the blue shell, And I thought this was interesting because what they said when they did this test, they're like, yeah, we tried it out. Something was missing, without the blue shell. And I'm like, yeah, that something was the unfairness of Mario Kart. Without the blue shell, then it's a fair race. Because the blue shell doesn't even help second place. Blue shell.
Maybe explain what the blue shell does.
So the blue shell, if you're in last place, you get this blue shell, and it goes all the way to first place. Not helping last place at all. It's only helping second place. Take the win right away from you. Yeah, I mean, it's not even an advantage to the last place person. If I'm in last place and I'm like, I really need to get some points here. If I get a blue shell, I'm like, well, there goes my chance of getting any points.
There goes the race.
Because what am I going to do with this? So that's where I stand on the blue shell. It needs to go. I can't stand the blue shell. Dave,
at least have the option to turn it off.
Dave, where are you at with the blue shell?
I want to touch on your statement of it'll make the game fair to take out the blue shell. Have you any idea the slew of items in that game that make that game not a skill-based game? I'm sorry, unless you're doing a time trial where there is no interference, Mario Kart is not a skill-based game. It is the most random, ridiculous racing game, and that's why I love it, is because it's not Forza. If it was like Forza, I just play Forza because it's the better game, but it's not. It's this fun. Anyone can win. I especially love in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe how they made it so if you turn on a certain thing, people can't drive off the track. So like when my wife plays with me and we're playing Rainbow Road, she doesn't have to worry about flying off the edge like I do on the corner. So I think Mario Kart is its own thing, and I do agree with those guys. I think taking out the blue shell is a mistake because it's a staple at this point. And it's one of those things where you could also be in first and slow down to hit the second and third place guys if they're real close to you. There's a little bit of strategy in the blue shell. It's not a simple, oh, I got the blue shell, this is horrible. In fact, I usually find a lot of joy in using the blue shell when I get it because I know I'm ruining someone else's day.
That's the thing. That day is usually mine, and I don't want my day ruined.
Connor's used to being in first place a lot. So.
I can't stand it. It's such a frustrating
Got a different perspective.
I wish there was a triple blue shell that they all spin around you like the red shells. That would be awesome.
I wish you could have the blue shell and pick who you want to hit. I want to hit the 8th place person just because I want to mess up. Over. They will unexpectedly. They would never expect to get the blue shell.
They'll never expect this.
What the heck, a blue shell?
That's what I want. So,
you know, it'd be cool if you could. Here's what I think you could do to make the blue shell even more ridiculous. Allow the person to get in the blue shell like a little spaceship because it's pretty big anyway, and fly that person to first place, nuke the guy like it does normally, and then that last place person that got it actually is essentially teleported to give or take first place. I mean, to make it fair, they can spin out too when they hit the first place person, but that puts them right back in the race.
I would be fine with that because then that helps out that last place person. But right now, it's not helping
Nintendo
them.
On the phone.
It's not helping them. It's just they're helping second place, and I don't like second place.
I don't like it.
First is the worst, second's the best.
All right, so let's get into our list and close out episode 12 of the LAN Partners Podcast. Matt, start us off with your number 3 simulation, so real sports game.
Real, yeah. My 3, I'm assuming or hoping that it's on all of your lists. ESPN, NFL, 2K5. We've all had separate talks about this game and how we wish it was still around today because it was way ahead of its time. We all enjoyed all the features on that game. It had to make my top 3 list.
I'll go next. My number 3 is Quarterback Club, the series. It was an N64 series until it went to Sony. I loved the Quarterback Club games. I thought it was awesome. There were tons of fun. Brett Favre was always on the cover, and all of us are from the Chicago suburbs, so we were Bears fans. But so watching Favre tear up the Bears on those opening videos every year was kind of through the heart, but it was still awesome. I love the Quarterback Club games. Dave, what was your number 3?
I think I did this wrong because when we talked about it, I thought we talked about how individual games in a series like this, you pick Madden 2001 all the way through whatever, and I just went with complete series. So mine's going to be sorry all your listeners out there. So my number 3 is the 2K series for NBA, and the reason I like that series so much,
you did that right. That's what we were doing.
Yeah, that's fine.
The whole series.
Yeah, I'm saying the Quarterback Club series.
Well, no, you're right. Yours was a whole series. Matt was a very specific 2K5.
I think that was the only game, wasn't it?
Well, they had
The only one I ever
2K8,
cared about.
All Pro 2K8 came out.
Those
and
were
it was
different
like,
though. Those are I had that one. It's different. It's completely different from ESPN 2K.
It's legitimately the same thing except you draft your team.
No, Dave.
And it's like Legends.
All
I had
Pro
the
was
game.
Legends, yeah, and ESPN was not Legends. That was current teams.
Correct, but it's the same gameplay, same
Yeah,
everything.
but it's not a.
I thought everyone knew like ESPN, NFL 2K5.
Matt, you're
like,
right. Connor's wrong. We're gonna move on here.
All right.
The NBA 2K series impressed me because, like the football one, it came out for I believe the same $20 price tag, and it was, in my opinion, not as good as the live series. But starting maybe around like 2009, it kind of became my preferred series too. Even though I had been devout live player, so NBA 2K series number 3.
Matt, what is your number 2?
My number 2, I'm going to make our friend Tony very happy, is MVP Baseball. That game was lights out. That game was awesome.
Is that PlayStation 1? I might have had that game.
MVP Baseball, I think, was on
Xbox. If Tony,
Xbox,
it's not
yeah.
PlayStation. If Tony plays it,
No, yeah, it was a 360 game.
Could it have been both? I thought I remember having an MVP.
No, it was on Xbox One, I think, like the original Xbox, I think. 'Cause it was.
it's funny how you can't say Xbox One without it having
I know. I had to
separate
correct
meaning.
myself.
Xbox 111.
The first one.
The one. So my number 2 is the ESPN 2K5, $20. Enough said.
Yeah.
Dave, what is your number 2?
Forza Motorsport series, and that's another enough said. What do you compare that to?
It's not. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of competition in the racing market. I feel like they all have their separate things that they make it different enough where they don't feel like they're completely competing against one another. Not like Madden and ESPN. Like those are both football games, and
Right.
I don't know. So where are we at right now, Matt? You're number 1.
My number 1, another baseball series, MLB The Show. No other sports game that I've played has gotten me this into. Like Connor will tell you, I'm not very into like sports games as much as he and Dave are, but MLB The Show is definitely my favorite series.
I have MLB The Show coming in at number 1 also. More specifically, though, Road to the Show. The reason MLB The Show is number 1 is because of Road to the Show. I love that's the most addicting mode in any video game ever, where I could just play that all day long and not get tired of it. It's insane. I love Road to the Show. Dave, what is your number 1?
My number 1 is your number 1. Road to the Show. No, I'm
definitely
kidding.
not. It's definitely not.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Number 1 is Madden. Hello. Good night. John Madden football. You know that series that's been around forever and been the best sports game since its conception. I'm going to go with the Madden series. I can't wait for Madden 18. No way am I playing that story mode, though. I just wanted to take another shot at that. That's really, really dumb looking. I feel bad for people who waste their time playing it. But Madden, play the franchise mode.
I'll have to check out Madden sometime. I never heard of this game. You'll have to. Do you have it? We'll play it next time.
Sounds interesting.
Well, it sounds pretty good.
It sounds interesting.
So please get on our Facebook or Twitter. Tell us what your favorite sports games are. Like I said last week, we did the fake sports games, non-simulation. This week we got real sports games. So please get on there if you agree with us about ESPN 2K being a gem that's lost in the history books of video games. Talk about it with us. Quarterback Club, another one. Madden, the game Dave's talking. I don't know what it is, but sounds good. So that was our episode 12 of the LAN Partners Podcast. Please, again, subscribe to us. Get our weekly episodes. And thanks again for listening. See you next week.